Book of Numbers, chapter 14. Threats of revolt. At this, the whole community broke out with loud cries, and the people wept into the night. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron and the whole community, saying to them, "If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we would die here in the wilderness. Why is the Lord bringing us into this land only to have us fall by the sword? Our wives and little ones will be taken as spoil. Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt?" So they said to one another, "Let us appoint a leader and go back to Egypt." But Moses and Aaron fell prostrate before the whole assembled community of the Israelites, while Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who had been among those that reconnoitered the land, tore their garments and said to the whole community of the Israelites, "The land which we went through and reconnoitered is an exceedingly good land. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will bring us into this land and give it to us, a land that flows with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against the Lord. You need not be afraid of the people of the land, for they are but food for us. Their protection has left them, but the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." The Lord's sentence. The whole community threatened to stone them, but the glory of the Lord appeared at the tent of meeting to all the Israelites, and the Lord said to Moses, "How long will this people spurn me? How long will they not trust me? Despite all the signs I have performed among them, I will strike them with pestilence and disown them. Then I might make of you a nation greater and mightier than they." But Moses said to the Lord, "The Egyptians will hear of this, for by your power you brought out this people from among them. They will tell the inhabitants of this land, who have heard that you, Lord, are in the midst of this people. You, Lord, who directly revealed yourself, your cloud stands over them, and you go before them by day in a column of cloud, and by night in a column of fire. If now you slay this people all at once, the nations who have heard such reports of you will say, 'The Lord was not able to bring this people into the land he swore to give them. That is why he slaughtered them in the wilderness.' Now then, may my Lord's forbearance be great. Even as you have said, the Lord is slow to anger and abounding in kindness, forgiving iniquity and rebellion, yet certainly not declaring the guilty guiltless, but punishing children to the third and fourth generation for their parents' iniquity. Pardon them the iniquity of this people, in keeping with your great kindness, even as you have forgiven them from Egypt until now." The Lord answered, "I parted them as you have asked, yet by my life and by the Lord's glory that fills the whole earth, of all the peoples who have seen my glory and the signs I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, who nevertheless have put me to the test 10 times already and have not obeyed me, not one shall see the land which I promised an oath to their ancestors. But as for my servant Caleb, because he has a different spirit and follows me unreservedly, I will bring him into the land which he entered, and his descendants shall possess it. But now, since the Amalekites and the Canaanites are living in the valleys, turn away tomorrow and set out into the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea road." The Lord also said to Moses and Aaron, "How long will this wicked community grumble against me? I have heard the grumblings of the Israelites against me. Tell them, by my life, oracle of the Lord, I will do to you just what I have heard you say. Here in the wilderness your dead bodies shall fall. Of all your men of 20 years or more enrolled in your registration who grumbled against me, not one of you shall enter the land where I solemnly swore to settle you, except Caleb son of Jephunneh and Joshua son of Nun. Your little ones, however, who you said would be taken as spoil, I will bring in, and they shall know the land you rejected. But as for you, your bodies shall fall here in the wilderness, while your children will wander for 40 years, suffering for your infidelity, till the last of you lies dead in the wilderness, corresponding to the number of days you spent reconnoitering the land, 40 days. You shall bear your punishment, 1 year for each day, 40 years. Thus you will realize what it means to oppose me. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will surely do this to the entire wicked community that conspired against me. Here in the wilderness they shall come to their end, and they will die. And the men whom Moses had sent to reconnoiter the land, and who, on returning, had set the whole community grumbling against him by spreading discouraging reports about the land, these men who had spread discouraging reports about the land were struck down by the Lord and died. Only Joshua, son of Nun, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, survived of all the men who had gone to reconnoiter the land. Unsuccessful invasion. When Moses repeated these words to all the Israelites, the people mourned greatly. Early the next morning they started up high into the hill country, saying, "Here we are, ready to go up to the place the Lord spoke of, for we did wrong." But Moses said, "Why are you now transgressing the Lord's order? This cannot succeed. Do not go up, because the Lord is not in your midst. Do not allow yourself to be struck down by your enemies, for there the Amalekites and Canaanites will face you, and you will fall by the sword. You have turned back from following the Lord, therefore the Lord will not be with you." Yet they dared to go up high into the hill country, even though neither the ark of the covenant of the Lord nor Moses left the camp. And the Amalekites and the Canaanites who dwelt in that hill country came down and defeated them, beating them back as far as the Hormah. Numbers chapter 15, secondary offerings. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land that I am giving you for your settlements, if you make to the Lord an oblation from the herd or from the flock, either a burnt offering or a sacrifice to fulfill a vow, or as a voluntary offering, or for one of your festivals to produce a pleasing aroma for the Lord, the one presenting the offering shall also present to the Lord a grain offering, a tenth of a measure of bran flour mixed with a fourth of a hin of oil, as well as wine for a libation, a fourth of a hin. You will do this with the burnt offering or the sacrifice for each lamb. Alternatively, for a ram you shall make a grain offering of 2/10 of a measure of bran flour, mixed with a third of a hin of oil, and for a libation a third of a hin of wine, thereby presenting a pleasing aroma to the Lord. If you make an offering from the herd, either a burnt offering or a sacrifice to fulfill a vow, or as a communion offering to the Lord, with a grain offering of 3/10 of a measure of bran flour, mixed with half a hin of oil, will be presented, and you will present for a libation half of a hin of wine, a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. The same is to be done for each ox, ram, lamb, or goat. Whatever the number you offer, do the same for each of them. All the native-born shall make these offerings in this way whenever they present a sweet-smelling oblation to the Lord. Likewise, in any future generation, any alien residing with you or anyone else in your midst who presents an oblation of pleasing aroma to the Lord must do as you do. There is but one statute for you, and for the resident alien, a perpetual statute throughout your generations. You and the resident alien will be alike before the Lord. You and the alien residing with you will have the same rule and same application of it. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land into which I am bringing you, and eat of the bread of the land, you shall offer the Lord a contribution. A round loaf from your first batch of dough you shall offer as a contribution. Just like a contribution from the threshing floor, you shall offer it. Throughout your generations you shall give a contribution to the Lord from your first batch of dough." Purification offerings. If through inadvertence you fail to do any of these commandments, which the Lord has given to Moses, anything the Lord commanded you through Moses from the time the Lord first gave the command down through your generations, if it is done inadvertently without the community's knowledge, the whole community shall sacrifice one bull from the herd as a burnt offering, a pleasing aroma to the Lord, along with its prescribed grain offering and libation, as well as one he-goat as a purification offering. Then the priest shall make atonement for the whole Israelite community, and they will be forgiven, since it was inadvertence, and for their inadvertence they have brought their offering and oblation to the Lord, as well as their purification offering before the Lord. Not only the whole Israelite community, but also the aliens residing among you shall be forgiven, since the inadvertent fault affects all the people. If it is an individual who sins inadvertently, the person shall bring a yearling she-goat as a purification offering, and the priest shall make atonement before the Lord for the one who erred, since the sin was inadvertent, making atonement for the person to secure forgiveness. You shall have but one rule for the person who sins inadvertently, whether a native-born Israelite or an alien residing among you. But anyone who acts defiantly, whether a native or an alien, reviles the Lord, and shall be cut off from among the people for having despised the word of the Lord and broken his commandment. He must be cut off entirely and bear the punishment. The Sabbath breaker. While the Israelites were in the wilderness, a man who discovered gathering wood on the Sabbath day, those who caught him at it brought him to Moses and Aaron and the whole community. But they put him in custody, for there was no clear decision as to what should be done with him. Then the Lord said to Moses, "This man shall be put to death. Let the whole community stone him outside the camp." So the whole community led him outside the camp and stoned him to death, as the Lord had commanded Moses. Tassels on the cloak. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them that throughout their generations they are to make tassels for the corners of their garments. fastening a violet cord to each corner. When you use these tassels, the side of the cord will remind you of all the commandments of the Lord, and you will do them without prostituting yourself, going after the desires of your hearts and your eyes. Thus you will remember to do all my commandments, and you will be holy to your God. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I, the Lord, your God. Chapter 16, Numbers, Rebellion of Korah. Korah, son of Isar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, and the Reubenites, Dathan, Abiram, son of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, son of Reuben, took 250 Israelites who were leaders in the community, members of the council, and men of note, and confronted Moses, holding an assembly against Moses and Aaron. They said, "You go too far. The whole community, all of them, are holy. The Lord is in their midst. Why should you set yourselves over the Lord's assembly?" When Moses heard this, he fell prostrate. Then he said to Korah and to all his faction, "May the Lord make known tomorrow morning who belongs to him and who is the Holy One, and whom he will have draw near to him. The one whom he chooses he will have draw near to him. Do this, take your censers, Korah and all his faction, and put fire in them, and place incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. He whom the Lord then chooses is the Holy One. You Levites go too far." Moses also said to Korah, "Hear now, you Levites. Are you not satisfied that the Lord of Israel has singled you out from the community of Israel, to have you draw near to him, to maintain the Lord's tabernacle, and to attend upon the community and to serve them? He has allowed you and your Levite kinsmen with you to approach him, and yet you seek the priesthood too? It is therefore against the Lord that you and all your faction are conspiring. As for Aaron, what has he done that you should grumble against him?" Rebellion of Dathan and Abiram. Moses summoned Dathan and Abiram, son of Eliab, and they answered him, "We will not go. Are you not satisfied that you have brought us here from a land of flowing and milk and honey, to have us perish in the wilderness, and now you must also lord it over us? Far from bringing us to a land flowing with milk and honey, or giving us fields and vineyards for our inheritance, will you gouge out our eyes? No, we will not go." Then Moses became very angry and said to the Lord, "Pay no attention to their offering. I have never taken a single donkey from them, nor have I wronged any of them." Korah. Moses said to Korah, "You and all your faction shall appear before the Lord tomorrow, you and they and Aaron too. Then each of you take his own censer, put incense in it, and present it before the Lord. 250 censers, and you and Aaron, each with his own censer, do the same." So each of them took their censers, and laying incense on the fire they had put in them, they took their stand by the entrance of the tent of meeting, along with Moses and Aaron. Then when Korah had assembled all the community against them at the entrance of the tent of meeting, the glory of the Lord appeared to the entire community, and the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Stand apart from this community, that I may consume them at once." But they fell prostrate and exclaimed, "O God, God of the spirits of all living creatures, if one man sins, will you be angry with the whole community?" The Lord answered Moses, "Speak to the community and tell them, withdraw from the area around the tent of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." Punishment of Dathan and Abiram. Moses, followed by the elders of Israel, arose and went to Dathan and Abiram. Then he spoke to the community, "Move away from the tents of those wicked men, and do not touch anything that is theirs, otherwise you too will be swept away because of all their sins." So they withdrew from the area around the tents of Korah, Dathan and Abiram. When Dathan and Abiram had come out and were standing at the entrance of their tents with their wives, their children, and their little ones, Moses said, "This is how you shall know that the Lord sent me to do all that I have done, and that it was not of my own devising. If these die an ordinary death, merely suffering the fate common to all humanity, the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord makes a chasm, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them with all belongings to them, and they go down alive to Sheol, then you will know that these men have spurned the Lord." No sooner have we finished saying all this than the ground beneath them split open, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their families and all of Korah's people with all their possessions. They went down alive to Sheol with all belonging to them. The earth closed over them, and they disappeared from the assembly. But all the Israelites near them fled at their shrieks, saying, "The earth might swallow us too." Punishment of Korah. And the fire from the Lord came forth, which consumed the 250 men who were offering the incense. God bless you.